Welcome back. A recent report by the Institute for Security Studies in cooperation with the Special Investigating Unit highlights that the SIU's strong capabilities in investigation, litigation and prevention. However, the research also sheds light on significant hurdles, particularly administrative delays in processing presidential proclamations by the Department of Justice and Constitutional Development. The study examined various factors contributing to the SIU's successes in the formidable challenges it faces in its crucial work. Let's now unpack some of these key findings with the head of the SIU, Advocate Mothibi. Advocate Mothibi, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning. Did any of the research that came out of this research that has been done by the ISS come as a surprise to you?
Aldrin, thank you very much for the opportunity, and greetings to the viewers of Newzroom. We worked closely with the Institute of Security Studies in their research, and their findings are accurate, albeit that some of the findings have since been mitigated. And if you read the report, we did put context in those findings. For example, the issue around the delays in the processing of proclamations have since been mitigated. The current Minister Kubai, and the previous Minister Simelane, and Minister Lamula, we have really since put together measures in place to make sure that they are processed speedily, and for obvious reasons, Aldrin, that the whistleblowers expect that their reports that they have submitted to us are processed speedily for action to be taken, of course preceded by effective investigations. So with regard to some of the other findings, in particular the issue around the funding model, that is, as I say, accurate, but of course we have raised it with the executive authority, being our minister, and she has really played a key role. For example, you know that SIU implements a fee-for-service model, but we also get a grant from Parliament. So the grant from Parliament we receive, albeit not at the level that we would like to see it, but the fee-for-service part of the funding model is really not working well, because you would have read and probably followed that as we speak today, there are state institutions that are paying, but there are those that are not paying. And the debt level sits, as we speak, the debt level sits at about more than 1 billion. So we are saying if that perpetuates, it's likely to affect the operations of SIU. As we speak today, SIU is in a sound financial space. We are able to execute, and we are executing for results. Results are also included in the survey or research report. We are really pleased about the results that we are really reaching. All members of SIU really have garnered and ensured that we reach these results. You would have seen that, well, of course, the main process that is in our hands, so to speak, which is the civil litigation process. When we found irregularities relating to procurement process, which is mainly most of our investigations are in procurement, and for obvious reasons, Adrian, you know, that if those who want to siphon money out of government, they would then target the procurement space. So if you find irregularities there, we then table matters at the special tribunal, which has really, and we are pleased really that the president proclaimed this special tribunal. It has shown, and is still continuing to show, the effectiveness of speeding up the recoveries, right? Now, of course, we do contribute also on other consequence management, which is the disciplinary processes of officials in the state that are participating in the wrongdoings. We would like to see the action being taken. There's a measure of inaction, but we've taken it up with the state institutions. We are seeing actions now, and the presidency has also put in place the measure to monitor the implementation of SIU referrals. Aldrin, the other part, of course, is that as the public always comments, that you will recover the assets, you will take the business premises, you'll take houses and cars and so on, but the people will walk the streets free. That speaks to the criminal part of the consequence management. So in terms of the law, when we find evidence pointing to criminal action, the law requires us to hand over that evidence to NPA. And we've been working with NPA over time. We've got a memorandum of understanding that says we need to collaborate to ensure that evidence gets processed, of course, to the satisfaction of the NPA. You would have seen recently that there's been arrests, the recent ones of the arrests of the previous executives of Transnet. Those are matters that, although the Zondo Commission also investigated, SIU also investigated, particularly the locomotives orders. There's various contracts that were investigated there, and we are also on the civil part at court with that contract, about 54 billion that we would need to get the cancellation of contract and recover the money. We are pleased to see that the criminal action has really kicked in. And the other part, of course, ensure that the regulators that regulates various players in this space also come to the party. Yeah. For example, we find that an example of the lottery investigation that we've done, which you may have followed, we find that lawyers, other professionals like audit companies, like estate agents, are really used and participate in the wrongdoing to an extent that it even comes down to money laundering. So we want Eldon to see the whole system work, and the focus of the research was really to review whether the system is really working and working well. Although it was focusing on SIU, that they've pointed out that we need to see improvements in areas of prosecution. Of course, continue to improve on recoveries, disciplinary actions, regulatory actions. So Aldrin, the public expects that the system works consistently. And at the moment, we need to pick up, as you may know, that our national anti-corruption strategy and the national development plan really says South Africa has adopted a multi-agency approach in the fight against corruption and crime. Yeah. So that multi-agency approach enjoins us to collaborate and ensure that the system works and works well. You would have noticed during the COVID-19, which we played a key role, there was a fusion center that fused all of us to really ensure that we collaborate. So that part needs to continue to ensure that we all bring out the results. And guess what? We will really deliver as expected by the public. The other part, and I'll pause if you do have questions, yep, the prevention, which I want to really speak about as well.
All right. I want to go to the proposal that was made by the Anti-Corruption Advisory Council that the SIU becomes a Chapter 9 institution. Have you been able to grapple with this and what this would mean for the SIU? But the other part that is stressed in the report as well is that the remedial action must be binding, like with the... I know that the report says like with other Chapter 9 institutions, but the court has found that not all Chapter 9 institutions remedial action are binding. But when it comes to binding remedial action like that of the public protector?
Adrian, you really hit the nail on the head. At the moment, and that's why I made a reference to disciplinary or referrals, recommendations that are made by the special investigation, outcomes of investigations, including systemic improvements. Those recommendations, when we send them, of course, they remain recommendations. We do not have the legal force to really enforce, and as you correctly say, they're not binding. But we have administrative processes to make sure that they are implemented. That's why I have referred to the mechanism, even at the presidency, to ensure that we hold those who do not implement to account. Of course, we require the legislative force behind that. Now, the recommendation of the National Anti-Corruption Advisory Council, which we've really been consulted on, and other law enforcement agencies have been consulted. You may be aware that they have actually issued, they had a summit in May where they presented their final recommendations. We do support those recommendations. It is very critical that whichever agency that's going to be formulated and recommended, of course, the president still has to process the recommendations. The recommendations in the main are really saying, as a country, we need a bit of step up. And that step up is in line with the provisions of the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, Chapter 5 and 6 in particular, which says, state parties have to have entities that really focus on prevention. As they investigate, they also need to focus on prevention. And the prevention focuses on systemic. Aldrin, you would be aware that the Zondo Commission and all other commissions have really pronounced on the systemic weaknesses and the systemic vulnerabilities of the system. So we require a step up in that direction. SIU, as I indicated already, is sort of doing that kind of a systemic investigation, but we lack the legislative push. Now, the NACEC, as we call it, has made those recommendations, and that also responds to the question that was raised by the National Anti-Corruption Strategy, whether the country is ready for a single anti-corruption agency. Yeah. While they are not saying, there should be a single anti-corruption agency, but they're saying there should be an agency, which they call OPI, Office of Public Integrity. Of course, that still has to be processed by the president. Now, this responds to that question one way or another, focusing on prevention, systemic investigations, some, of course, investigations. If they pick up criminal evidence, there will still be referrals and so on. Now, the issue around the Chapter 9 institution, there's the schools of thought around that. That really just goes to the nub of the independence of the entity, right? If you have listened to, or I've listened to some of one of the advocates who always champions this, says the Chapter 9 institution really just ensure that the entity will be insulated, the entity will be independent, there won't be any potential for any interference from all the levels. So we believe that to that extent, there is probably merit to ensure that it progresses. While it may start off as a statutory entity, there is merit that it progresses to a Chapter 9 institution. And for the recommendation that says, SIU should really be, I think they use the word absorbed and so on, but integrated and so on, it's really because, they have looked at various entities and they find that the work that SIU does pretty much, resonates with the recommendation that they've done. Yeah. And it will not necessitate the state to create a wholly new entity, and National Treasury has to fund the establishment of a new entity. So that creates an impetus for the new entity to really hit the ground running, as it were. So that really is going to propel the fight against corruption in the country, really stepping up over and above the reaction part, which we want to see, giving out the results, consequence management. We need to step up on the prevention side. If we do prevention and prevent very well, yeah, which would include, really change, the quest to change the conduct around, start studying from, low levels of education is going to have that prevention work, education, public awareness, data analytics, a risk-based approach to the assessment of the fight against corruption. And of importance is the inclusion of state and non-state parties, the inclusion of the whole of society. All right. Although we are already doing that at the moment, even as part of our priorities of the G20 Anti-Corruption Working Group. We look forward, if this is carried on, executed as we state, is going to add a lot of value, and the public is really going to accept that.
Okay. Advocate Mothibi, unfortunately, we're running out of time,
Yes.
but I quickly want to deal with this question. Last year, when you and I had a conversation about the Tbisa Hospital investigation, you spoke about the criminal enterprise that you were able to uncover as the SIU. How far is the completion of that investigation? Because once again, Vusumuzi Matlala, whom we first known of during your first report that you had issued under the auspice of the Gauteng Health Department, that investigation that was conducted. Of course, now he's back in the news. But I remember vaguely, and you can confirm this, that there was a recommendation that the matter be referred to the NPA, and then the NPA then taking action against those people that have been implicated. Are you able to give us an update with regards to that?
No, thank you for that question. The investigation has progressed and has progressed to a completion stage. And we've referred quite a number of officials, and we are happy that the provincial government of Gauteng has already really started taking action on that aspect of disciplinary process and making sure that the officials that were involved are taken out of the system. On the process itself, which is the procurement process, you would be aware that we've made several findings, and we've found that the company of the person you refer to has been implicated, and we are processing that through to the special tribunal. As you know, I did indicate that the special tribunal is quite speedy in processing those matters. We want to ensure that this contract and other contracts that we have seen, by the way, we have made findings against. We want to get that contract cancelled and the money that has been lost recovered. There is also evidence pointing to criminal action, which now, on a speedy basis, we are processing with the NPA, and there's other referrals to other regulatory authorities. And by the way, we have now the investigating team really has done wonderful work here. They've also really received reports from other hospitals, or reports pointing to other hospitals, that the similar irregularities that are happening there, that have seen really the dysfunction of several health institutions are happening elsewhere in the province. So we will be processing further proclamation or expanding the one that we have. Now, you would know that, and really this is a sad story, that Babita Diokran had to really face the demise. She played a very key role, and we want really to ensure that her efforts were not in vain, right? We have used the evidence that he gave us. We are pleased that the criminal part has really reacted quickly, and there were arrests and those who appeared in court. But as you know, every time we appear on the platform, the questions get raised. Where are the masterminds? And I know that my colleagues in the Hawks and in the NPA are working quite hard to ensure that there is conclusive attention to this matter on the criminal side. So we're attending to it on the civil side. On the disciplinary process perspective, we're attending to it. We're on the civil side, we're also attending to it, and the criminal action are taking place. But we also want to see the prevention side, the system being attended such that we are able to prevent the recurrence of these incidents. So yes, it is really quite a case study. There's various lessons to learn, and of course we will be sharing the outcome of the results with the public soon. And really we look forward to results being reached and the criminal prosecution carried forward.